Eren killed most of the people alive to buy his island a pause. It worked. That's the part nobody says out loud. The world stopped hating Eldians for what they were and started hating them for what they'd just done. Same hatred, new reason. Except this time the world isn't wrong. He didn't break the cycle. He turned at one rotation and stepped off. Look at what you're handed in the final chapters. Eren doesn't break the cycle. He interrupts it. The rumbling doesn't end the world's hatred of the island. It earns a pause, purchased with most of humanity. The survivors get a window, not a piece. And the Eldians don't come out redeemed. They come out worse, in a specific way. They were the world's victims, and now they're the world's monsters. They traded one cross for another. Before the rumbling, the world hated them for what they were. After it, the world hates them for what they did. And this time, the world isn't wrong. The group that lives through it is uneasy with each other, skeptical. There's no scene where the meaning gets stated and everyone agrees on what it was. The line between the right side and the wrong side is blurred past recovery, and the story refuses to redraw it for you. Everything is on hold. That's what people mean when they say the ending is unsatisfying. And they're right, it is. The question is whether that's a failure or the point. Consider what a satisfying ending would have required. It would have to resolve something. Break the cycle, or end the hatred, or at minimum, tell you who was right. Give the deaths a purpose that holds. Let the survivors sit together in a world that makes sense again. But every one of those requires the story to contradict its own argument, because the argument, for the length of the story, is that this doesn't happen, that people don't stop hating each other because a war ended, that every peace is a delay, that the children of the ones who died grow up and hear the story and it starts again. The show tells you this over and over, through Reiner, through Gabi, through Grisha, through every generation that inherits a grievance it didn't earn. A story that argues the cycle can't be broken cannot end with the cycle broken. So it does the harder thing. It ends the way real conflicts end, with an exhausted pause, a blurred line, and a group of survivors who can't fully trust each other anymore. Not because the writing failed to land the plane, but because the ending's form matches what the story spent all that time saying. The dissatisfaction you feel isn't the story failing you. It's the story refusing to lie to you at the last possible moment. There's one exchange at the end that tells you what kind of story this was the whole time. Ymir spent 2,000 years in that place. 2,000 years of accumulated suffering, held by a woman who was a prisoner of a love she never chose, who kept building titans for the man who owned her long after he was dust, because that was the only relationship to power she had ever been given. And Eren finds her, and he says the right things. He doesn't create her rage. It was already there, 2 millennia of it. What he does is light it. He tells her what she needs to hear to release the thing she's been carrying, and points it at the world. Sit with what that means. Eren spends the story as a man aimed by something outside himself, the memories, the certainty, the knowledge of a future he can't refuse. And then he turns around and does the same thing to the most powerful being alive. He becomes the mechanism, the pointer. And here's the counterweight, which is the most human moment in the ending. What actually frees Ymir isn't Eren. It's watching Mikasa kill the person she loves most. Because that's the thing Ymir never knew was possible. 2,000 years of believing love means submission. And then a woman shows her that you can love someone completely and still refuse to be owned by them. That's what breaks the spell, not the aim, the proof that the aim doesn't have to work. Eren pointed her. Mikasa unpointed her. He never actually won that exchange. Now the part the show is most obviously about, and the part almost nobody disputes. Every conflict in Attack on Titan is decided by people who won't be in it. Marley's leadership decides the island is the enemy and hands that decision to children, 12-year-olds trained to see devils, competing for the honor of dying young. Gabby didn't choose her enemy. She inherited one from adults who would never stand where she stood. The warriors are a generation of kids sent to commit atrocities before they were old enough to refuse. Behind the walls, the same structure, a monarchy that decided what its people were allowed to know, that engineered 100 years of managed ignorance, that fed the Survey Corps into the dark for reasons the soldiers weren't permitted to understand. Erwin's men died for information the crown already had. That's the pattern, and it isn't only fiction. It's most of human history. The people who declare wars are almost never the people who bleed in them. The powerful choose the enemy, and the poor and the ordinary go and die a few miles from home, against people who were told the same story in reverse. If you want the political reading of Attack on Titan, that's it, and it's correct. But it isn't the bottom of the story. Because here's the thing about aiming a weapon. You can only aim one that's already loaded. The men on top don't manufacture hatred. They can't. What they do is find it, already sitting in ordinary people in enormous quantities, waiting for a name and a direction. Marley didn't invent a child's capacity to hate. It pointed one that already existed. Eren didn't create Ymir's 2,000 years. He gave it a target, and I want to be clear, because this isn't a correction of what I just said. The propaganda is real, it's deliberate, it's constant, and it works. Gabby is proof of that. So is every warrior candidate. So is a century of managed ignorance behind the walls. None of that stops being true, and none of it is a lesser explanation. But propaganda is the aim. It isn't the ammunition. It's a delivery system for something that has to already be sitting there. And that's the part that's harder to look at, because it's the part that isn't outside you. Then I noticed something about my own reaction to this show. Nobody propagandized me into hating Gabi. There was no system, no manufactured story, no authority telling me who my enemy was. A little girl killed a character I loved, and the hatred arrived before I could think about it. Instantly, from grief, from the same place love comes from. The show gave me every reason to understand her afterward, and it changed nothing. That's the mechanism running with no elite involved at all. No one aimed me. The ammunition was already there, which is the harder thing Attack on Titan is saying underneath the politics. The powerful are the aim. We're the ammunition. And the cycle doesn't continue only because we're deceived. It continues because we're capable, and the deception only has to point. So, the cycle doesn't break. Eren bought time. The Eldians got another cross. The survivors got a pause they can't trust, and a world that will produce the next generation of children who inherit a grievance they didn't earn and feel it as their own conviction. And the story ends there. Unresolved, uneasy, refusing to tell you who was right. For years, people have read that as Isayama running out of road. I don't think so anymore. I think the refusal is deliberate, and I think it's the most honest thing a story about hatred could do. Because the alternative is a story that says the cycle can end, delivered to an audience that would have to walk out into a world where it hasn't. The ending isn't perfect. It's perfect because it isn't. Build quietly. Walk your path.